Hello friends, Tom Downey here for NFL Daily on Chat Sports. Back again with all the latest NFL rumors and news, and in particular on today's show, quite a few trade rumors out there. We'll start things off in Cleveland, where latest buzz the Browns are not going to trade Duke Johnson, which, to be fair, is what John Dorsey keeps telling NFL reporters. Now remember, Johnson did ask for a trade back in early April after the Browns signed Kareem Hunt, and he kind of fell down the depth chart. Now again, Dorsey says Cleveland is not going to trade Johnson, despite there being reported interest from the Eagles, who have since made moves for Jordan Howard and drafted Miles Sanders. The Jets, who, by the way, in addition to Lev Bell, also picked up some more back help there. And then the Houston Texans, who I'll make note, did not draft anybody. Now, Johnson brings probably actually in reality, more pass-catching value than he does bring running back value. Now, Dorsey knows Johnson is a good player. He's not going to give him away for free. But if a team comes up with a big offer, maybe his tone does change. Because after all, Nick Chubb's going to be the focal point of that Browns backfield as the number one back. Then there's Kareem Hunt behind him as, once he gets back on track and the suspension's over, at least a damn good number two, probably a starting caliber back as well. That doesn't leave that many snaps for Duke Johnson, but of course beyond those two guys, the Browns don't have great running back depth. So although Duke Johnson has not really been a featured back in terms of carries, he's only topped 85 once in just his short 4-year NFL career, he has been a really good pass catcher. Heck, he's almost a full-on slot receiver. And in fact, Duke Johnson before that kind of is his preferred position, 74 catches in 2017, but his numbers did decline in 2018. So what should the Browns do with Duke Johnson? Type K for keep and T for trade. If you're a fan of the Browns, maybe you're typing in K. If you're a fan of a different team, maybe you are typing in T for trade. Wow, that didn't make any sense there. If I'm the Browns, though, I'm keeping Duke Johnson. He's a very good player, and with Hunt suspended for a good portion of the 2019 season, you're better off keeping him for now. Now, speaking of those Browns, how about a Gerald McCoy trade? The report from one of the local Cleveland papers is that the Browns still have interest in adding Gerald McCoy, who is now 31 years old and does carry a very hefty $13 million salary, and that's his cap hit in 2019. Now, the Bucs have been open to trading away Gerald McCoy, but they didn't during the draft because, frankly, I don't think there's much of a market for a player who, even though he's still good, is on the decline and carries that level of cap hit. Now, McCoy did have 6 sacks last year, 6 tackles for loss, so he can still contribute, but I don't know if you want to pay that man $13 million. So any deal that would come would likely feature a restructured deal. The numbers are not the same as they were in 2014 or 2015, but McCoy can still be a very good rotational defensive lineman. Maybe that makes sense for the Browns. So if you're Tampa, are you trading away Gerald McCoy? Give me a Y for yes and a N for no with his cap hit, knowing it's probably not going to be the single best year in Bucs history this coming season. I'd at least consider it. I wouldn't give him away if you don't have to, but if you can get let's say a conditional 5th-round pick, I think that's pretty decent value for Gerald McCoy if you're the Bucs. Maybe you could even work something out centered around Duke Johnson, given how bad Ronald Jones actually looked last year. More trade talk. Next up, Kyle Rudolph of the Minnesota Vikings. Remember, the Vikings, who have long coveted an athletic number 2 tight end, found one in Irv Smith, and now Rudolph enters the last year of his deal, set to make over $7.6 million. Now, the Vikings did field trade calls during the NFL draft and a little bit before it as well. They did not shop him. I don't think they're going to give him away. Remember, this Vikings team with head coach Mike Zimmer and quarterback Kirk Cousins, especially Zimmer, they might be playing and coaching for their jobs next year. I don't think they're a better team if they trade away Rudolph. Now, yes, it would help out the salary cap side of things, but wouldn't you prefer to have Rudolph and Irv Smith next year? I think that's Minnesota's mindset, so I'm not going to give them away for nothing. Now, there are some trade fits that I think make some sense. Number one by far are the New England Patriots. Now, they might just ignore tight end altogether this year. If the Raiders want to find a more dynamic tight end, maybe Rudolph makes some sense for them. Tennessee, only if Delaney Walker's not healthy. I'd like to see him in Arizona, add more weapons for that new fun Cliff Kingsbury offense. and the Bills if they don't want to give Dawson Knox the role right away. But for the most part, it's very much New England and then everybody else. And of course, I think Minnesota should consider keeping him as well. So I'll ask you this, which team most needs to trade for Kyle Rudolph? I think the Patriots have the biggest need at tight end, but I think Minnesota, they should consider keeping him too. I know the money's a big factor, then he hasn't maybe been the same guy he was in the past, but I think for the Vikings and for the Patriots, it definitely makes some sense. We need to consider a trade there. I also don't know in the end what's going to happen on that front between the Patriots and the Minnesota Vikings. I think New England should have some level of interest, but in particular, if you're the Vikings, I'll make this point one more time because I think it's very important. You are trying to win right now. Your head coach, if you miss the playoffs again, there's a decent chance he ends up being gone. So, Rudolph, you trade him away, your team does not get better. All right, folks, today's show is brought to you guys by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. Want to make some money betting on the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs, or the MLB regular season? You got to use BetDSI. Chatsports.com/bet and use that promo code LIVE120 for a 120% deposit bonus. Put down $50, they're going to give you $60 for free. You aren't going to find a better betting deal out there. Some, I guess, kind of trade rumors here. Chris Harris and the Denver Broncos. Now, remember, he asked for an extension or a trade. Now, there were trade buzz and even trade talks leading into the NFL draft. Harris, of course, was not moved. I think a big reason why, Harris reportedly wants $15 million per year. Now, Elway said the team would talk extension after the draft, but that has not happened at this point. Of course, there was a conflicting report that there had been no trade talks, so NFL.com all over the place on that one. One reporter says, yes, there were trade talks. One says, no, there was not. I don't know what the truth actually is there. But the money side of it's important for Chris Harris and the Denver Broncos. Now, if Harris wants $15 million per year, we'll assume that ends up balancing the cap. Of course, it'd probably be less in year one. But that would put him on the top 3 highest paid players. Here are Denver's highest 3 players based on this year's cap hit. Von Miller, $25 million. Then Joe Flacco, just under $18.5. Now, the highest paid cornerbacks, meanwhile, and this is why Harris said he wants $15 million, Josh Norman making $15 million per year. Now, I think the cornerback market is due for a very hefty reset. I think in reality, corners are underpaid based on other positions. I don't know, though, if Chris Harris is the player to totally reset that market. So let me know in the comment section. Do you think Chris Harris is worth $15 million per year? Make no mistake, I think he's a fantastic player. And the salary cap keeps rising, so in the end, it's not that much of a pay raise in terms of the percentage of the salary cap. But let me know, do you think he's worth that $15 million per year? He is a little bit older. I kind of lean towards no, but look, if you got money to spend, I'm looking at you, Cleveland. And if you want to work out a trade, maybe for a little bit less and then pay him a lot of money, maybe it makes some sense for you at that point. Another, is a former Denver Bronco player, Jared Veldheer, visiting the New England Patriots, visited them on Tuesday, was the right tackle for the most part last year for the Denver Broncos. And the Patriots right now looking for even more depth on the offensive line. Now, my first thought was, wait, they have Isaiah Wynn, and they drafted Yannick Justin. Then I remembered, oh, wait, that's right. Trent Brown left, of course, to get paid big time by the Oakland Raiders. Adrian Waddle did not re-sign with the Patriots. So depth is needed. And I think Jared Veldheer, I know he's not the same guy he was in his prime or even early with the Arizona Cardinals, but he can at least be a good swing tackle because he has right tackle and left tackle depth. Now, while I think New England is in pretty damn good shape on the interior, Isaiah Wynn coming off a torn Achilles, Marcus Cannon still very good, Kajust had his own injury problems at West Virginia, was a 3rd-round pick. If you want to go 4 deep at offensive tackle, given your left side injury problems, I think Veldheer makes a lot of sense for you as a swing tackle because he played left tackle and right tackle. And I think a team like the Giants in particular should go have some more interest there, but watch out for Veldheer and New England. And then our last item, more of a news side of things, the Oakland Raiders. Unfortunately, Isaiah Crowell tore his Achilles on Tuesday. His season, in reality, over. There have been some times where players have come back, but I don't think that's the case for Crowell. Signed a 1-year deal with the Oakland Raiders. He's not going to play for them at all. A brutal break for Crowell, but the Raiders, however, already making moves. They've, I guess, re-signed Doug Martin. I guess re-sign's the proper term there. He's back in Oakland, provides some added depth at the running back position. Those contract details still not yet known. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a very cheap deal for the Raiders. And I'll make note, by the way, a report from NFL.com said Marshawn Lynch is interested if the Raiders want him back. But to be honest, I don't know if the Raiders want him back, given how quickly they picked back up Doug Martin. So the running back depth chart right now, look, Josh Jacobs is going to be the focal point of that ground game, but especially given his limited workload at Alabama, you probably don't want to instantly give him 400 touches this year. So Rashard will play a lot on passing downs. Doug Martin, DeAndre Washington, and yes, Chris Warren as well will compete for that number 3 running back role. Maybe they even carry 4. Just a possibility out there. Warren, of course, is that sleeper if he's actually in shape. So grade the Raiders pickup of Doug Martin, A, B, C, D, or F. I know it's a little tricky because the contract details aren't out, but Martin knows the scheme for the most part for the Oakland Raiders, and you could do a heck of a lot worse for your number 3 back than Doug Martin.